I didn't manage to read 17 books last month, so why I'm trying to read 17 again, I don't know, but I do have a plan. Today I'm going to be filming my NEWTs TBR for the Magical Readathon that takes place in August. The Magical Readathon is organised by G at BookRoast, and the NEWTs are the nastily exhausting wizarding tests that are basically like the Harry Potter A-level equivalent. Now you need to have completed your OWLs first, which I took in April and drastically failed at, before you take your NEWTs, because you have to do the NEWTs that you've already qualified for from your OWLs. So for me that was Potions, Defence Against the Dark Arts, Charms, Transfiguration, Herbology and Care of Magical Creatures. Based on that, I've picked a career that I want, so I'm going to try for the Aura career. Now, to be an Aura, I require an exceeding expectations in Potions, outstanding in Defence Against the Dark Arts, acceptable in Herbology, and unacceptable in Transfiguration, which means that I need to read, I should have prepared this beforehand, 2, 3, 4, 7 books. But I'm off for half of August, so I know I can read 7 books, and there's other books I want to read. So I'm going to try and complete all of the tests that I'm eligible for. That's 17 books. Now I didn't manage to complete 17 books for the Book Junkie trials, so I don't know why it would be any different this month when I'm actually going back to work at the end of the month, but I'm going to give it a try. Anyway, there's a few books in here that I need to read for different videos that I'm going to do, or read-alongs, or discussion videos and things like that, so I need to read some of them anyway, so I'm going to try and get them in to the NEWTs. But without further ado, we're going to actually move on to discussing what is on my NEWTs TBR. So for Defence Against the Dark Arts, I'm going to be starting with American Monsters by Derek Landy. Derek Landy is one of my favourite authors. He writes the Skullduggery Pleasant series, which I love, but he also writes the Demon Road trilogy, which is a story about Amber, who on her birthday discovers that the whole reason for her having been born and for her existence is that her parents and their friends want to eat her so that they can live for a lot longer. Obviously not being very happy with this, she runs away, and on these adventures she comes across lots of monsters and horror movie allusions and serial killers and so on. Derek Landy absolutely loves horror movies, and so he likes to write a lot of elements that are based on horror movies you would know or horror stories you might have read, and it's really fun to pick those out as you're reading through the book. So I'm looking forward to finishing off the series with American Monsters. Once I've completed that, I'm then looking to move on to my book that is the first book that I remembered from my TBR, so that I can get my exceeding expectations for Defence Against the Dark Arts, and that is The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski. So this is the first set of short stories in the world of The Witcher, and Netflix are just doing their adaptation, which is due out, I think, in November. So I'm going to be doing a read-along for The Witcher, starting with the set of short stories this month. So I need to get this read so that I can make sure I've read the books before the adaptation comes out. I'm really looking forward to it. I've seen Wayne play the games, and I've played some of the game myself, and I absolutely love the relationship between Geralt and Yennefer, so I'm looking forward to seeing where that comes from, as well as revisiting some characters that I enjoyed, like Dandelion. So this is a novel that I'm desperate to get to. If you don't know about The Witcher, make sure you look it up. It's a high fantasy novel that is based on a series of adventures for Geralt, who is a witcher, and witchers are responsible for controlling the monster population and making sure that things within the world don't get out of control, or that the monsters don't take over. However, there's a lot of moral issues in this book, and it's definitely a morally grey world, and a lot of the times the humans are the worst monsters in it compared to the actual monsters that you will see. So Geralt, it's not just a straightforward idea of him being a monster killer, which is really fun to watch. I'll then be moving on to Nightbreak, which is the 8th book in the Young Sherlock Holmes series written by Andrew Lane. I really love these books. They're quick and fast, wonderful little adventures. It's the idea that if Sherlock Holmes was a young boy, what would be his life before he before the stories actually start by Arthur Conan Doyle. These books just really make me smile all the time. They're a great mystery. There's wonderful friendships in there and wonderful mentor relationships, and there's also a really nice romance which I'm desperate to catch up on and find out what happens. I really enjoy Sherlock Holmes and the idea of it, but I like seeing this idea of how he has grown up and how he's come about. So I'm reading this for the prompt to read a book by an English author. And now on to potions class. For my acceptable in potions, I needed to read a friend's favourite, but I really don't want to read Jane Austen, which is my best friend's favourite book, and other ones I've read. So I've decided that I am going to substitute this for the group book, which is Spellslinger by Sebastian de Castell. This has been on my shelf for a little while. Wayne picked me up in store. I know that it's all about magic and like some kind of trials, a little bit of an adventure, and also that the guy basically has to con his way through these, and I absolutely love that idea. So I'm really excited to start this. I'm not supposed to be starting any series, but it's the group book and I really wanted to be able to join in with the discussion at the end. So I'm going to read this, and then I'll just have to put the second book on my list later in the year, which luckily I own, so we're okay. So this one is going to replace a best friend's recommendation so that I can read along with everyone else. I'm then going to read Malamander by Thomas Taylor. So all the beautiful blue colours. I couldn't find a book that had bronze on it, so I'm going, and you know, the yellow is bronze enough, but you've got all this beautiful blue on this book. So this is going to be my book that has the Ravenclaw colours. This is a children's story that will be whimsical and quite sweet. It seems really poetic. I've read the introduction, or the prologue to this about Erie-on-Sea, and it's really captivating. It's a lovely idea. It really reminds me of Nevermore a lot and that world. So I'm eager to read this and learn more. It takes place in the Grand Nautilus Hotel, so there's also going to be like these seaside themes, and it's like in a seaside town but during the off season, which I think is a really nice idea. So I'm looking forward to getting to that. And then finally for potions, I have Ink and Bone by Rachel Caine. Now, this isn't needed for the career of an aura, so I'm going to put these ones to the very, very back of my list this month. I want to get the ones done for the career first. And my whole point of this year was to try and finish off series that I've already started, but this is actually the beginning of another 5-book series. However, Rachel Caine is coming to my city in September, and so I really wanted to potentially go see her and get some of my books signed, so I figured I should probably start the series. Ink and Bone is about the Great Library of Alexandria, and I just love this part of the blurb on the back, which says, "In a world where the ancient Great Library of Alexandria was never destroyed, knowledge now rules the world, freely available but strictly controlled. Owning private books is a crime." And so it's this idea of a book smuggler who's sent to the library to potentially try and get one of the jobs there and learn there. And the whole point that knowledge is power, and therefore books are strictly controlled. And I just love the idea of it, so I'm really looking forward to reading it. This is for the prompt to complete a book with a prologue, so if I do get to that, that will mean that I've got outstanding in potions. So in Transfiguration, I actually only have to complete the book for an acceptable, which for me is going to be a reread of Hunting Prince Dracula by Carrie Maniscalco. I reread Stalking Jack the Ripper last month, and it actually increased. It went from a 4-star read to a 5-star read on increase for me. So now I'm really looking forward to carrying on with the series. Carrie Maniscalco writes this series about Audrey Rose Wadsworth, who is a young girl that wants to be a forensic scientist, like a forensic pathologist, and she takes part in like these historical mysteries that are historically unsolved or have mythology and legend involved in them. In this in the second book, she travels to, I think it's Romania, and there we have the myth of Dracula or Dracul. So this is the second book in the series, so I'm not going to say much more about it, but I'm just really looking forward to enjoying the romance again that's in there and the writing that's in there. This book is a book with LGBTQ rep because there is a lesbian relationship in this book. Once I've done that, once I've completed my career books, I've then got some massive chunkers sitting on my list. So for Exceeding Expectations, I'm going to be reading, the second in the A Darker Shades of Magic series, which is A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab. So the A Darker Shades of Magic series is a book which takes place over multiple Londons, and each London, so there's Red London, Black London, White London and Grey London, I think, and each London has a different set of magic that is involved in there. Now the first books I didn't love. I do really enjoy V.E. Schwab and V.E. Schwab's writing, but A Darker Shades of Magic just didn't grab me as much as the others. But I do want to finish them because I think that they might get better and I might get into them more as I read on. I also really like Lila Bard, and as far as I'm aware, Lila Bard takes more of a place in this book, so I'm looking forward to that. However, these books are over 500 pages, and so it's a lot, so this is definitely going towards the end of the TBR. The next one is actually for the prompt to read over 500 pages. So I don't know if I'll get to it, but I'm going to try because it will finish off a duology that I've been reading and enjoying, and that is Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. It's also an absolutely gorgeous book and gorgeous cover. What's really great about Laini Taylor's writing is that it's really poetic, it's really beautiful in itself, and I really enjoyed Strange the Dreamer, so I'm looking forward to ending the book. But once I've ended this, I actually next year want to start the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series, which I haven't read myself, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to fly through those and enjoy the connections and the nature of the world as it expands. Strange the Dreamer focuses on Laszlo Strange and Sarai, who are two characters in what seems like a mythological world. So Laszlo Strange travels to the city of Weep, which he had always thought was actually a myth, but he'd been doing lots of research on all the time, and then some really wonderful, beautiful and fantastical things happen, but also some really heartbreaking and sad things. So I'm going to be getting back to that world again and finishing off that series. For Herbology, the first prompt is to read an audiobook, so I'm going to be reading God's Grave by J. Christoph for that. I listened to the audiobook for Nevernight last week, and I really enjoyed that once I got through the first 20% of it. It was this fun and really fast-paced adventure. I loved the idea of assassins and an assassin school. I really loved Mia Cover, and I really liked the fact that she has shadow powers, and some of the things that it was talking about to do with fear and the gods and the morality in it, which was fantastic. At the end of the month, the Royally Booked Book Club is going to be doing a live show and discussion on God's Grave, so I'm really looking forward to that, and so because of that I need to read God's Grave, so this is on my Aura career path, and I will be listening to that so that I can carry on and get through it and listen to it while I'm out and about. once I finish that book, I will have finished my aura career. I will officially be qualified as someone who can go through to the exceptionally difficult career of an aura, but then I've got to move on to the rest of the TBR. So for the rest of Herbology, this is what I plan on reading. I'm then going to try and read Sword of Destiny, also by Andrzej Sapkowski, and that's because for the read along that I'm going to be doing with Witcher, I need to read 2 of the books every month to try and get them all finished by the end of November. I do not want the series to get ahead of me. I really like to be able to see the connections and things like that, and I love to be able to make the links between the adaptations, so it's really important to me that I can get these read beforehand. Now, I was speaking to a few people and they believe that the series will actually focus on the first short stories and the first novel, so they should definitely be read, but just in case it pulls from different places, I just really want to get through them as much as I can. This set of short stories was actually published, I think, after the 4th book was published, but it takes place between the first short stories, which is The Last Wish, and the first novels, so I'm going to be slotting it in at this point, and I will be reading this for the prompt to read a book between 350 and 390 pages, because this is 374 pages long. And then finally I'll be rereading a favourite, and it's another book in a series, and it is Escaping from Houdini by Kerry Maniscalco. And there's not much for me to say for this. This is the 3rd in the series, and I'm rereading the series because Capturing the Devil, so the final book, will be out at the end of September, so I wanted to reread and really immerse myself in that world and the relationships before I got there. So once I've read Hunting Prince Dracula, I'll be free to reread this as I want to. Now, the final 2 subjects and the final 6 books are just extras. I don't actually need to complete any of these for my career, and so I'm just hopeful that I can try and get to them. I'm going to start off with my books for charms. So I'm going to start off with the book that has a gorgeous cover, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It has been suggested that I listen to the audiobook for this, because this is actually about a band called Daisy Jones and the Six, and it's told all in interview format. I don't know if you can see that. So it's like interviews and accounts from the band and the different band members years after the scandal that broke them up. I really enjoyed The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I loved the Hollywood world, and that's why I was really into that old Hollywood vibe. I'm not sure how much I'm going to love this one, but I still really liked Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing, and people have said such good things about it that I think it's going to be great. I didn't like One True Loves, but that's a completely different style. So I'm really intrigued to get more into the world, because you've gone from, like, Evelyn Hugo was a 5-star for me and One True Love was a 3-star for me, so I'm wondering where this is going to sit on that scale. And we'll see at the end of the month if I do manage to get to that. After that, I've got a nice short one, under 150 pages, and this actually comes in at 149. So I'm going to be reading The Slow Regard of Silent Things by Patrick Rothfuss. I absolutely love The Name of the Wind. It's one of my favourite books. I also really like The Wise Man's Fear, minus the Ferulian section of it. So I'm really interested in getting back into the world, but I've been putting off this book because I started it, and just novellas and short stories aren't something I love, so I wasn't massively into it. Ori is also not my favourite character, and so I wasn't sure if I wanted to delve into it or not. However, it perfectly fits the prompt. It's a beautiful book. I really enjoy this world and haven't had much of it for a little while, and so I'm definitely going to be reading that this month, and I mean definitely, it's only 150 pages. And to finish off charms, I'm going to be trying to read Pet Sematary by Stephen King. Pet Sematary has just recently been adapted into a movie, and I want to read it before I watch it. I did read it before I've seen the movie of It Chapter 1, and I haven't, obviously Chapter 2 is out soon, and I really enjoyed that. I also have really enjoyed Salem's Lot by Stephen King, and I really quite like Misery, but I haven't read much because I am aware that Stephen King can get a little bit samey over time, and some of the films especially can really be a bit hit and miss. I tried to read Under the Dome and didn't manage to actually finish that, so I'm going to try again with Pet Sematary because it's not too long. I can try that. And also I've been really in the mood for something that's horror filled and a little bit gory, so I'm interested in this. Wayne's quite surprised that I haven't read it or know what it's about. I do know it's about pets that are buried and come back to life, so zombie animals, but that's pretty much the only thing I know, and it's the only thing you need to know for horror. So I'm just going to give that a go. Then we're moving on to Care of Magical Creatures, and I really want to get to this book, which is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I think this is going to be really fast and fun and just a really nice murder mystery. I'm looking forward to the idea of the conspiracy and to following these characters as they unravel the crime. I love the cover because it has all the different pins, like the pin board and the wall that's stretched between them as they try to come up with all the connections. And I've always wanted to be a detective, so I'm looking forward to figuring out the mystery as the characters do. Then I have the one that I'm most worried about in this entire thing. Not the 500 pages, no. I'm most worried about one of my shortest books, and that is For a Divergent Collection by Veronica Roth. I read Divergent quite a few years ago because I was doing a paper on it, and I was speaking about the Hunger Games and Divergent and post-apocalyptic young adult literature, and why we like to focus on war in young adult literature and how it can compare. And I really like it. I do really like Divergent, but it is very young, and at this point I think it's very of its time. I'm not sure how well I would do reading it now or how well I would do going back and reading the Hunger Games, even though I think they have great value and I really appreciate them. This is the set of short stories that came out after them, which features 4 after his life from after the books, and it's a post-apocalyptic world, and it's a set of short stories and novellas. I'm going to try and read it. It's only short. I'm going to try and get through it and finish off that series completely, and maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised and the writing will actually still really stand up to time, but I'm worried about this one. Finally, if I somehow manage to get through all of those books, the last one that I have on my list is 48 by James Herbert. This one is an alternate history type book. It's set after the Second World War, and it's not that Hitler won or anything like that. Hitler did die, but as a final act of vengeance, he's released a thing called the Blood Death, and it's basically like a disease that he's released that has made the population really sick. It only affects certain people, but the majority of the people are diseased, and it's deadly, and it's now been ravaging London for years. And there are some people with a rare blood type that aren't affected by this, and I have a feeling that those people are going to be hunted by the people that are affected. Again, it's another horror, and it's only short, so I don't really want to know much more. I just want to go into this, and I've really been in the mood for them, so hopefully I'll be able to finish that off this month too. And that's it. That's the 17 books that are on my NEWTs TBR. Now I'm going to focus on reading these ones first and trying to get these finished, including God's Grave, because they're the ones that I need for my Aura career. But once I have completed those, the rest of it, I'm going to desperately try to get through as much as I can of it and really try to push through this reading month. I do go back to school at the end of the month, but it's only enrolment period and I'm not teaching and there's no marking, so hopefully I should still be able to get a lot of reading done. It's a hell of a lot of pages, but I do have a plan. It's 8,300 plus pages, so I worked out as long as I read at least 300 every day for the month of August, I will be fine. And when I go back to school, that might be not doable, so I'm going to really hope that in the first 2 weeks I can read as much as possible. So I'm going to try and read 500 or 600 pages a day then, and then it's okay if I read less at the end of the month. That's my plan anyway, and I'll be giving updates on Twitter to see how that is going and in any weekend vlogs that I do film. I hope that the NEWTs go really well for everyone else, and I can't wait to see other people's vlogs and TBRs and updates on that. I'll also be updating my reading progress on Twitter as I complete it and talking to anyone as we go through the month. So that's it for today. If you like this video, please remember to like, subscribe and comment below with the books that you're reading and tell me what career you're hoping for. Good luck in the month of August for the Magical Readathon, and I'll catch up with you in another video.